Welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. Today, the major question we are wondering, did Biden in fact poop himself? All this and more on the Self-Evident Podcast. Welcome to the Self-Evident Podcast. You have Mike. There is not Massey, but that's okay. You've got me. I'm here with you. We are going to get through it. World War III may be on our doorstep, but that's okay. We're going to survive, folks.
We're going to get drafted.
Yeah, I was telling the boys before we got started, they may get drafted. Uh-oh.
Well, me, not
yeah.
this one.
Well, it depends how long the war takes. I mean, if it's a 20-year war, yeah, Nathan, you're going. But, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hopping on the podcasties. If you are an Apple user, you may have noticed a hiccup. Maybe there's still some issues. We're trying to iron them out. What happened is this. We moved the podcast from one platform to another platform. The other platform gives us a lot more abilities. It's more geared towards podcasting. However, there's usually some hang-ups, some finagles, some things you got to fix. So please stick with us. Find us on Spotify. We are now on iHeart. That's right. We're on iHeart now.
What the heck is that?
We're on Deezer. We're on all the You've never heard of iHeart. You just don't realize iHeart. They own and I'm probably exaggerating, but probably 75% of the radio stations out there. And then, they are a massive empire, and they're big on online music and podcasts and all of that. But go find us where you can find us. If you are watching on the YouTubes or the Rumbles or the YouTubes and the BitChutzies and the Twitter X's and the Facey Spaces, wherever you're watching us, thank you so much. Give a subscribe, give a like. Most importantly, share it. Share it with your friends. It's the best thing that's ever happened. I'm still working on my Trump, but I got my Fauci down. These guys are like, golly, what did we sign up for? Yeah. Uh-huh.
You're working for a weird boss over
Yeah, you are. But that's okay. All right, guys.
Text to give.
Yes. Who's doing it?
You got them.
So you're going to text the word GIVE to 772-242-0299. That is the word GIVE to 772-242-0299. That is a text to give option.
Yeah, text to give, or think about becoming a monthly sponsor through our Torchbearer Society. You can go to theselfevidenttruth.com to get yourself some more information. Check out the blogs. We're coming out with new content for you guys as much as we can. There's only so many of us, but we're going to do it. Now, you may notice, Mike, you're kind of wired. You're kind of hopped up. That's coffee. That's lack of sleep. It's okay. I'm going to make it. Probably pass out halfway through, but I'll do it. And I'm here with you. And frankly, part of it is I don't have anybody to bounce off of. I mean, you guys are there, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you.
But Dad has to be in Montana, right?
Yeah. He right now, at this moment, I think he is on an airplane coming back.
Then we get to go.
And we are praying it's not a Boeing. Too soon? It's too soon.
Then we get to go to California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. You guys are like, could you just get the information started? Please just stick with me. California, we will be out with you. Ontario, California, we are coming for you. Homeschool convention, great homeschool convention. We will be there next week, Thursday through Saturday. It's going to be good. I love going to these homeschool conventions. Please, by all means, come up and say hi. Let us know how much the podcast absolutely impacts your life, transformed you, made you a new person, made you $1 million, whatever you want to say to make us feel better. We appreciate it. So, are we ready to get into it?
Yeah.
All right. Biden's unraveling, guys. And I know I gave a little giggle, but that's, in all honesty, this is a really sad affair. And I've been more and more frustrated. And if you've been listening for a while, you may have heard me talk several times back during the campaign how annoyed I am with the Biden campaign, the Biden family, all of that. And it's not even Joe Biden himself. If he were fully with it and fully competent, yes, I would be frustrated with him. I think I'm most frustrated with Jill Biden of all people. If she truly loved that man, she would have said, we're not doing this to him. He can't handle this. He's not all with it. He's declining. Can we just let him rest and relax? But instead, she of all people was trotting this guy out time after time. He's good. He's fine. He's great. You're the one they were gaslighting you ad nauseum. No, you're crazy for even thinking he's declining. And I've put together a very tiny, tiny compilation of some of the signs of where Biden's at. So if we want to go ahead and roll the first video, just to wet your whistle, and I'll give you a couple others. Let's go.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him, excuse me.
I couldn't help it. I love that one. And I tried to find the other stumbles and I was having trouble, but there are other things that have happened that have showed Biden's not all with it. He's not there. And the worst part is this has been going on for almost 4 years. And people have tried to shove it under the rug. They've tried to hide it behind doors. And no, you're crazy for thinking. Let's roll the next one. Let's go with it.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
Looks like he's about to take a crap right on the stage. Looks funny.
You know what's crazy?
What?
Is people immediately that's what they thought. That's what most people are, and now the diehards are thinking, no. Well, I don't know if they're thinking this. What they're saying is, no. He thought he was supposed to sit down, but then he realized he wasn't supposed to. No. If you've ever watched, and people have used this example, and it's great, if you've ever watched a toddler taking a dump in their diaper, they do the exact same thing.
Have you witnessed it?
Yes. Plenty of times. There's like this far off stare that happens in their eyes. They're just like, they're with it, and then like, right? Now, Biden's 81.
Yeah.
I get it. I am not mocking the man. What I'm saying is he's so far gone that on a stage at a D-Day anniversary, even if he were having issues, if he were fully competent and with it, he could do it without showing anybody that he was doing it.
Also, when he first got out of the car, it looked
Dude.
like his soul left his body or
Right?
something like that. He's just like standing there like, where the heck am I?
I am so glad you said that because I didn't preface that video. I've watched it several times, and I'm glad you pointed that out because what it says is everybody's noticing that. Like he steps out, and for those who are listening, it's video of Biden stepping out of the car, the SUV, and he looks lost. He like his jaw is dropped, his eyes are just glazed over, and he's just slowly turning, looking for somebody to help him figure out where he is. That is a man who is not there. And I firmly believe that dementia has truly set in for this guy. Right? And then you watch his walk. Does that look like a man who is fully with it? He walks across the stage and he's got this like shuffling, hinged gait of just trying to make it there. Right? Let's go to the next video.
predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as will be a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really. Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right.
3 things that happened in that. First, you notice he had a super stumble of his words, and he had to catch himself and come back. Now, if that were all, cool, I get it. Then he says something to the effect of, I'm a winner, not really. And it was that disassociation in him. You watch it in his face. And audio listeners, I apologize that you can't see. Go and find the video. Come to us on YouTube. Watch this. You watch his face kind of disassociate, knowing I said the wrong thing. And he pauses, trying to figure out where he's at. And then he knows he's got to switch topics. He knows he's got to get out of the mess that somehow he's in. So he pulls a coin out and starts talking about Lincoln Riley, which was not the girl's name that was killed. And it's this abrasive, abrupt, awkward shift into sympathy. What's that?
Said she got killed by an illegal.
Yeah. And then he says the term illegal, which is like, oh, slip. You guys aren't supposed to say that, are you? You know. Okay, last video. Let's go to it.
Accompanied by the Director General of the International Labor Organization.
And to say to President Biden, can you hear me, President Biden? This is a historical moment for Brazil and for the U.S. President Biden, can you hear me? You can? Yes, good. And so there's the U.S. delegation that is here with me. I'd like to greet my wife that is also here. I'd like to greet the Brazilian trade unionists that came to my invitation by my labor minister, and I also like to greet the U.S. trade union leaders.
Okay, couple of things there. Now, again, audio listeners, I highly recommend you come to YouTube and find these videos because it'll give you a lot more context. But I'm going to explain what happened. First off, he runs into the flags as he's coming onto stage. Now, I get it. You know, somebody else could do that. So I'm not... cognitive decline. Then he's got the earpiece in. He looks lost. What's that?
He's like, falls out. He's messing with it. It's like, bro.
And I want you to think about if you've got an earpiece in and you've got a little handheld thing, right? And that's what he had, earpiece cord to the little handheld recorder or whatever, transmitter. Your earpiece falls out. How long do you think it takes you to put it back in?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. All of us. Oh, crap. Done. All of that pause and silence was him struggling with the earpiece to put it back in. That clip was, 37 seconds, and at least 15 to 20 seconds of it was him messing with that earpiece. Not like shifting it around really fast and all that. Literally, it falls out, and he's trying to figure out how to put the thing back in. And if you watch the video, you go, this is somebody who's struggling with life. And all of this culminates in the Wall Street Journal kind of said the quiet part out loud. Now, Wall Street Journal they're not the Wall Street Journal. I apologize. The Washington Journal. They're not the Washington Post. Oh no, it was the Wall Street Journal. I apologize again. Wrong. Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal, they're not the most liberal rag in the world. Okay, so understand this. However, they talked to over 45 people that were a part of some major meetings and all of that. And these people are commenting about how he's not with it. He's not here. And of course, what does the White House do? White House said, no, you're crazy. Deputy Press Secretary Andrew Bates claimed on X that past quotes from Kevin McCarthy prove that Biden totally was with it. Totally was. And that's what they're doing. They're saying, no, he's over 30 years, he's been one of the smartest people in the room, and he's great on foreign policy. And you're not telling me what's happened in the past couple of months. You're not talking about what just happened. You're trying to tell me that his history is what determines where he's at today. So Bates argues that McCarthy told reporters publicly after those meetings that Biden was very professional, very smart, very tough at the same time. And he reportedly told colleagues in private that he found Biden to be mentally sharp. White House communication director, yeah, everybody's like, Communication Director Ben LeBolt posted to X, what a surprise. Republicans employing their election year messaging strategy that contradicts their own prior words about at POTUS. Prior words. Senator Patty Murray, Democrat, posted, surprise, surprise, everyone attacking at POTUS is a Republican with an agenda. Well, I don't think the Democrats, most of them, although there are the more and more that are coming out, so Patty, be careful. I made clear to the Washington's Wall Street Journal regarding the January meeting on Ukraine that the president was absolutely engaged and ran that meeting in a way that brought everyone together. I'm not quoted. I wonder why. Yeah, whatever. And then Julie Chavez Rodriguez, as someone who has spent and continues to spend a lot of time with the president and continues to, I think ensure that I am living up to sort of his strategic approach at every turn. I will say that he is, just one of the strongest leaders that I've been able to engage and to be able to work with and to advise. Joe Scarborough on MSN said, I've spent time with both of these guys privately, spent time with Biden and Trump privately. I've spent time with every House Speaker over the past 30 years. And Joe Biden, it's just not close. If you want to talk about international affairs, if you want to talk about how to get bipartisan legislation, Joe Biden is light years ahead of them all. But things are unraveling for these guys. So the Wall Street Journal, while the White House is using examples of how with it and Sharpie can be, they came out with 45 people from both sides of the aisle telling them that he's not all there. What's funny is the article headline says, behind closed doors. Bruh, these doors ain't closed. That's part of the reason I gave the whole videos, right? Like, you watch this. It's out in the guy is pooping on stage at the Normandy celebration, 80th anniversary. Let's call it what it is. No, he's trying to sit down. Come on, man. He's pooping. This is the same guy who, it cannot be proven, although how do you prove it? But there are good reasons to believe he had an accident while with the Pope. And that's why the meeting took so long, because they had to change him. We are the absolute laughingstock right now. And we're going to get into another major topic that this does not help us. And so the Wall Street Journal specifically talks about a meeting 6 months ago. Now, this is a half a year ago, and think in the terms of cognitive decline, how long ago a half a year is, in which the president was mumbling, reading from notes, and awkwardly pausing, forgetting the details of his own policy, and going back to things which had been covered months before. Now, publicly, he's been recalling conversations with people that were dead before the events he supposedly discussed with them, confused Egypt with Mexico, mixed up names of his cabinet secretaries, gets lost on stage, forgets people who are standing next to him, tries to shake hands with the air, and now seemingly has pooped himself on stage in Normandy before getting let off stage like a child. And there's video of Joe Biden leading him off by the hand, and he's just kind of shuffling along, not knowing where he's at. Bill Maher has even described him as cadaver-like and that he should get out because he's just lost the faith of the people. I'm going to state an opinion. This is an opinion. This is not a desire. Everybody hear that? Opinion, not a desire. My opinion, not my desire, is that I don't think he's going to make it to the election. I really don't believe this guy's going to make it. I think he's got months, at the most. Now, I could be wrong. You're not a medical professional. Yeah, I could still have an opinion. And my opinion is the slide is so fast and so drastic. And if it is dementia, it's so exponential as it grows. I don't think it's lasting long. And I think they're already keeping this guy strung along just because they need him. And that really shows lack of faith in Kamala Harris, which I'm curious how they're going to handle that one. I really don't think they believe they can run Harris. Trump would absolutely obliterate Kamala Harris. Now, there will be a debate between supposed Trump and Biden at the end of June. Now, we are planning on live streaming for that and covering it. That's our plan. I don't think it's going to happen. I truly believe they are not going to allow this to happen. So probably a week or two before, the Biden campaign is going to come out, and this is what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you Trump campaign won't agree to certain conditions. They won't do this. He's not going to play fair. They're not giving us what we need. So it's off. We're not going to do something he's trying to rig. Because they know Republicans will whine and cry and write letters or whatever. Trump will go off, and they expect that, but their own base will believe them. And they'll kind of save face enough to not embarrass themselves completely. They know they cannot put Biden on that stage. They can't. The only way they could put Biden on that stage is if the moderator themselves protects him so much that it's absolutely obvious what's going on. So while we're planning on covering it, don't expect it. Don't expect it to happen. I want it to happen. Oh, Lord, please let it happen. Because then you cannot escape the comparison and the contrast between the two. And Trump will just obliterate him. He'll absolutely. And people, you know, when like a football team runs up the score on another football team and everybody's like, jerks, how dare they? People might say that about Trump after a debate like that. He took advantage of an old man and he embarrassed him. He didn't need to do that. Anyways, so it's always a lever of power that we're trying to get to. We're trying to find the power. And I know who can find you the power. Energy Ops, LLC. South Carolina, Charleston area. You need Energy Ops. And I'm telling you, man, my house, I got to put up pictures of like before and after so people understand like, dude, this guy does work. He goes above and beyond. His company is booming. If you're in the Charleston area, by all means, reach out to Energy Ops, LLC, energyops.us, or you can email them at office@energyops.us, or you could call them 843-263-1724. Again, 843-263-1724. By all means, get a hold of Energy Ops.
That was a nice transition. I liked it.
Thank you, bud. I appreciate that. All right. So, feeling cute, might start a war later. Younger generations get it. The old people are like, what? What does that mean? All right. Yeah. Let's go to slide 2. So, guys, it's not enough that we have spent $175 billion on Ukraine with a projected earmarked $250 billion to go to them. I want you to imagine how much money that really is. $250 billion is what we want to put into Ukraine because we have some crazy notion that NATO needs to be sitting on the borders of Russia. Now, the U.S. has recently, we gave permission to the Ukraine, which isn't that funny. We have to give permission to Ukraine on how they're going to use the weapons we gave them. We gave Ukraine permission to use U.S. weapons on Russian soil.
Why would they listen to us? Like, they're their own country.
Right. And that's, people are wondering that, dude.
Like, and my dad talked about it last podcast. They were like planning to write a law for Israel to not attack like the Palestinians. And my dad's like, do you think they're their own country? They're not going to listen to our own bill.
Right, right. And the only way that Ukraine listens to us in this whole sense is because we own them. And they're not their own sovereign nation. Israel is the type where they go, I don't care what you say. I'm doing what I need to do. More power to you. Ukraine, they're a puppet, man. We had, 11 CIA secret bases or secret houses in Ukraine. We own them. This is our war. And Russia knows that, right? And so Russia had drawn the lines. And back in January, Dmitry Medvedev reminded Ukraine and the U.S. that to use missiles on missile sites in Russia could risk a nuclear response from Russia. And what people don't get is Russia would be willing to use tactical nukes. After all, the use of nukes is in paragraph 19 of the fundamentals of Russia's state policy in the field of nuclear deterrence. Basically, the state policy says that they can use them if they've been attacked by nukes or even conventional weapons which threaten the state of Russia. So it all depends on if they feel the state of Russia is being threatened, which attacks on the soil of Russia could be considered threatening the state of Russia. Now, after Ukraine had hit Russia with U.S.-made arms, the Russians responded that they could provide long-range weapons to their allies who could use them against those same actors, aka U.S. In other words, okay, fine. You want to give Ukraine to use long-range weapons against us on our own soil? Here you go, Cuba. Here you go, Venezuela. Here you go, North Korea. Here you go, China. They'll start handing them out. It's warfare. It really is warfare. ABC News reports the recent actions by the West will further undermine international security and could lead to very serious problems. He said, taking questions, this is from Putin, I apologize. He said, taking questions from international journalists, something that has become extremely rare since Moscow sent troops into Ukraine. He said that would mark their direct involvement in the war against the Russian Federation, and we reserve the right to act the same way, Putin added. Yesterday, it was announced that Russian warships are now heading for the Caribbean as a show of force. This includes the long-range Russian bombers, which will combine with the ships for naval and air drills. Now, a moment of reality for all of us. Two things. First, this is a game of war and words. I want you to imagine you are the U.S., and you and Mexico are having a tiff. You're having a conflict. And Canada is supporting Mexico. They're sending arms over to Mexico. They're going, we're not involved, but here's some arms. Mexico fires from behind their border. At some point, you've got to go across that border. Now, for Russia and Ukraine, this Russian border idea of, well, as long as it's not used to attack within, right? And I think people forget this is war. So basically what Russia is doing is hiding behind their border, and then as soon as Ukraine hits them with something that the U.S. built, oh, how dare you? How dare you hit Russian soil? Stop hiding. Stop hiding behind the border. But they're doing it because it's strategy, it's influence, it's a war of words. They can try to control the U.S. influence on the war. But you notice U.S. involvement. U.S. is directly involved. And all you people who put your Ukrainian flags on your filters, be ready. Be ready. You going to get drafted? You going to go to the front lines? Are you willing to go die for the state of Ukraine? You willing to be on those lines to fight Russia? Fight the evil empire that is Russia? And the second part of this is people tend to think that a war just starts. One day everybody's cool, and then all of a sudden bombs just start dropping. But it's steps, it's aggressions. And then there's a catalyst moment where everything flips and it's all out. We're marching towards war. And a lot of times it happens this way of, okay, here's the line. Well, somebody kind of crossed the line. So now we've got to up the ante. Well, now somebody crossed the line more. So we've got to up the ante more. And at some point, it just all hell breaks loose and it's all scale war. All bets are off. That's what we're marching towards. Back in the Revolutionary War, it didn't just happen. If you remember, there was tension building between the colonies and Britain. And there were events going on. There were blockades, there were boycotts, there were troops being stationed in Boston, all of that, embargoes. And then the Brits try to clean out an armory, and the battles of Lexington and Concord happen. Now stuff has started to shift. You have Bunker Hill. Stuff is kicking up. But it was not a war yet. It was armed conflict, violent skirmishes. Finally, the colonies said, we're done. We've had it. We've tried to reconcile. Here's the Declaration of Independence, which was also a declaration of war. What we're watching right now here is very similar. We're watching these steps up of, well, first the U.S. wasn't involved. Then, well, the U.S. is only sending some bullets and some bombs and that kind of thing. Then all of a sudden it's, well, the U.S. is helping with intelligence and the U.S. is sending some people off to the other side to just kind of help out in certain ways. Now, NATO has sent fighter jets and they've given green lights, right? I've got it written down. You want to know what the influence is now? Germany lawmakers are urging the activation of 900,000 reservists over the Russian threat. The UK has been discussing raising up a citizen army. Belgium has donated 30 F-16s to Ukraine. The Dutch have given 18 F-16s. Denmark has given F-16s. Both Denmark and the Netherlands gave the green light to use the jets inside Russia. And now Greece is sending a training team to Ukraine to train pilots on the F-16s. It is ramping up. The U.S. has now given long-range missiles and said, yeah, go ahead and use those in Russia. Do what you got to do. Now, Russia is retaliating with, okay, fine. I'm sending missiles to your enemies. I'm moving a fleet to the Caribbean. I'm going to show you force. At some point, the danger of this is it all just kicks off. Something happens. An event happens that is all out, all scale war. And we'll get to that in a moment. But there's something else that is happening right now in your own Congress that you got to be aware of. In completely, utterly, without a doubt, unrelated news, the military-industrial complex, Congress, may be looking to streamline the registration for selective services by automating it for all men. Because it's cheaper and common sense. Representative Chrissy Houlihan, who wouldn't get drafted, sponsored the language in the bill and called it both a money-saving and common sense reform. She said, by using available federal databases, the Selective Service Agency will be able to register all of the individuals required. No, she didn't say men. And thus help ensure that any future military draft is fair and equitable by drafting only men. Now, she didn't add the by drafting only men part. I did. This will allow us to rededicate resources. Basically, that means money towards reading readiness and towards mobilization, rather than towards education and advertising campaigns driven to register people. Now, notice, men, a female politician in Congress is signing you boys up, saying, we'll just automate the whole service. Funny that now, when we're on the brink, well, we might as well automate the draft. Might as well automate registration. Because Gen Z doesn't want to fight. Gen Z does not want to go to war. They're all over TikTok and Instagram and all of that, talking about how they're not going to war. They don't want to be a part of that. They don't even want to participate in the economy at this point. I don't really blame them. You think they want to go to war for you? And isn't it beautiful that our politicians, especially our female politicians, are so ready and willing to sacrifice your body for their war? Now, I feel like I sound like a hippie from the 70s in this. But this war, Ukraine is the one that we're going after? That's it? That's why we are going to put on the line hundreds of thousands of American lives for Ukraine? Now, we all see that there's more to it than that. We know there's more to it than that. And it's so naked of what's going on. And there's a couple of things. When a civilization or an empire, I should say, is dying, and we could all point out how much the U.S. empire is really, it's dying. It's collapsing in on itself. Desperation results in war. War is that last catalyst. Now, some people have different theories about why it's going on. Some people's theory is that's how you shift a big change in an empire or society. War, because then people are willing to see the entire structure change. They don't care because war. I agree that's part of it. I think the other part of it is war is always viewed as a let's look outwards and hopefully that'll solve our problems. And there's financial gain in war because you've got to pay for all the armaments. And you'll notice an economy, its energy gets focused into the war. So like in World War II, people were in the factories building tanks and jets and all of that. And people were coming together and people were uniting. Having a common enemy helps bring the people together. Desperation will say, well, if we create an enemy out of somebody else, they'll stop seeing what we're doing here. And I think you've got these various theories that are probably all at play. Sometimes people think it's one single grand conspiracy by a couple of people in a room circled around a table. I don't believe that's how it happens. I believe it's a mixture of greed, influence, incompetence, and short-sightedness, as well as some Machiavellian evil. And these are all kind of chaotically playing off each other. Now, if you want to go into the spiritual, of course, it's a spiritual influence, a satanic influence at the end of the day. It's principalities and kingdoms and authorities spiritually that are moving these chess pieces. But the people themselves, I don't believe you've got this single cohort that is just sitting around a table going, okay, 50 steps ahead, here's how we're going to get it all. There's too many variables, right? Now, they can have their plan and they can move forward. And I do think there has been a long-term plan of we're going after Russia. We just need the catalyst. The Cold War never ended, guys. We say it did, but it never ended. That Cold War has been continued on. And I would actually argue that the Soviet Union kind of won the war. Now, you may say, no. Soviet Union, they collapsed. They fell apart. Economically, yes. Politically, yes. But the seeds that they sowed, it was kind of like a societal and cultural nuclear bomb that they left with a timer on it. And you can trace back so many of the influences of communism, Marxism, and the seeds that they left throughout our culture and society and how those things have sprouted up. And people will say, oh, you guys are using that term Marxism just like people overuse fascism. Maybe. I think yes, but I think we've got to point to the influence of Marxism and how it's shifted and taken on its own frame of mind. I don't think fascism ever had that type of foothold. Now, you could argue and say, well, do you remember the rallies fascistic rallies, the Nazi rallies that were happening before the war and all that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but I see World War II as a massive catalyst of a lot of people woke up. With communism, even during the Cold War, there was never a hot war between us and Russia. You could argue proxy or whatever. That's fine. But there was never a direct hot war between us and Russia. And Russia was good at hiding what they were actually doing. China was doing the same thing and still do the same thing. Communists will hide what's actually going on and try to save face. North Korea does the same thing. They put out as much propaganda as they can of, hey, look how great the communist system is working. Mind you, millions and millions of people are in the gulags. And Russia was hiding it so well that very few people actually knew about the gulag system. Mind you, millions of people were in the gulags, and most people didn't even realize it. And the few who were willing to say it, people, you're crazy, that's not really going on. And you would have some diehards who would go over to the Soviet Union, see what was going on, and go, oh, goodness, this isn't, because they would be able to figure out what's actually happening, because it's always very controlled. Like North Korea, you go to North Korea, they do not let you just walk around. It is very calculated on where you can go, what you can see, how you interact with it, taking pictures. There's a guy from America who died in prison in North Korea because he stole a propaganda poster. They're very careful about all of it. And so I believe if you haven't seen the Yuri Bezmenov videos, you've got to check out the Yuri Bezmenov videos. Former KGB agent, and he was stationed, I believe it was in India. He defected to the US, and he puts on this whole series of this is what they're doing and this is how they're doing it. Watch out. And he even says, look, when they get their talents into a generation, that generation's lost. They're done. You've got to go to the next generation and try to reverse the problem. We never reverse the problem. All of that to say, we're in dire straits. We're a failing empire. We're collapsing in on ourselves. And now we're looking at war. And I do believe war is coming. I pray it does not, but I do believe it's coming. And this gets back to what I had said earlier. You're going to find that event, that Gulf of Tonkin event, that sparks it all off. That says, that's it. We're done. We're fighting. And people will point to a false flag. I would not be surprised if it ends up being a false flag. There is too much to gain for these politicians who won't serve a single day in combat, who will never be affected by the war, who just vote, yep, we're going to war. Draft all the men. Let's go kill Russia. And we cannot have a stomach for these people. It is time to absolutely not have a stomach for these people who are trying to march us into war when there is no need. Now, you can make the oil argument, and I think oil is a big factor in all of this. You look at placement of pipelines, oil security, market share, all of that. Boy, a lot points back to conflicts in various areas and why the U.S. might suddenly get involved in a place like Syria or Libya. Okay? It makes sense. And I think the moral, the emotional side of me says, is that worth it? Is that really worth it? Is the chess game that important that we've got to see hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people die? And Ukraine was ready to make a deal very early on in this thing, and Boris Johnson went over and scuttled it. They could have ended this a long time ago. Hundreds of thousands of Russians and Ukrainians would not have died. But that doesn't matter to Boris Johnson. He goes over, sits in an office, scuttles the whole thing, flies back first class, private jet to the UK. Meanwhile, some guy named Boris or some guy named Dmitry is in the cold field in a trench and gets hit by a mortar shell. He's got 2 kids at home. He's got a wife at home. He's done. He's gone. For what? Because Boris Johnson decided, no, we can't make this peace agreement. And the peace agreement would have basically given the land that Russia had already claimed. But no, we've got to go it the hard way. And now the U.S. is trying to double down. And at the head of it all, we have a man who is most likely pooping himself on the stage at Normandy. Now, where's the hope? You guys are probably like, bro, that was heavy. Yes. Because I think we need to realize this will affect us. And we've been insulated for a long time. We haven't had to see destruction, chaos. We've had no understanding of it. But if all-out war happens, Russia knows they can't invade. That would be a suicide mission for them. Now, a combination of China and Russia and Iran and all of that, they're already invading through the border. So they can cause chaos from the inside, use long-range missiles, tactical nukes, whatever they want. It could get really, 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 really bad for all of us. So what's the hope? And this is going to sound cliche, but Christ is your hope. When you follow Christ, you die to yourself daily. And when you truly die to yourself, you realize whether I have another day or I have another 1,000 days or I have another 10,000 days, I've got Christ. And when you've got Christ, you give up, oh, but I want comfort and I want all of this, and I was hoping that I could get this. It's okay to hope, but it's better to let it go and say, no matter what, I've got Christ. Even if it's just today, I'm with you, Jesus. And the anxiety and the worry and the stress, Christ tells us flat out, don't worry about tomorrow. Today's got enough problems of its own. And we need to be in prayer. We need to be in repentance. We need to be on our faces before the Lord. And the funny thing is, I'll say that, and most of us will go, yeah, somebody else will do it. We're apathetic. Apathy is what slides you into chaos. At least hatred has passion. Apathy has no passion, no energy, no drive, no activity, no action. It just slides right down into the chaos. And so my challenge to you is, are you willing to actually pray, get on your face, repent, fast for yourself, your family, and your nation? That's the question. Are we willing to actually do that? We say we are as a church. Oh, yeah, of course, prayer and fasting for the nation. Definitely got to do that. Next week. Maybe we'll do that next month. I hear somebody's putting on a day of prayer and fasting. So, I can't really fast. I mean, I got to eat. But I could say a prayer in the morning on the day of prayer and fasting. Lord, help the nation. I'm not mocking you guys. I'm not mocking us. I'm not mocking me. What I'm saying is we've got to shuffle away from this apathy and run headlong into passion and energy for the Lord. And if we really love our nation and we love our neighbors and we love ourselves, love our families, we would be doing those things. Repenting, praying, on our faces, fasting. We would be broken before the Lord. We would be a Habakkuk. And so I encourage you guys to do so. Because this ain't going well. And you can say that Trump will save you. But is your faith in Trump? Or is your faith in the Lord? Because what if he doesn't save you? What if it's too far gone by the time he gets elected, if he gets elected? What if he doesn't get elected? Where's your faith then? But if your faith is in the Lord, I'm not saying that everything turns out perfect on the earth. What I'm saying is when your faith is in the Lord, truly in the Lord, you will walk in content and peace. So, guys, seek out the Lord. Go for Jesus. He is the only sure thing in this earth, right? He is the sure thing for you. So we love you guys. Please, by all means, subscribe, like, comment, go for it. Become a part of our Torchbearers community. We want to serve the kingdom. We want to serve and expand God's kingdom. You can partner with us for that. So, Monday, you will have Massey and Mike. I don't know if you'll have the guys. It may be another one of those office visit things. We'll see. We'll see what you do. Anyways, I love you all. Have a great weekend. See you guys.